Team, so happy you're all here. I was prepping with you guys earlier today for a few minutes and just learning from you and hearing you guys out. I'm so pumped for our audience here. It was so much wealth of knowledge and so many different point of views. We have Earl's point of view from being the godfather of catering. He hates it every time I say it. But if I got a dollar for every time I said it, I would be a wealthy man. Aaron, who is doing last mile delivery, who is the face of the operation. And we have incredible brand with us, Karen and Josh from Condado Tacos, serving up some of the best tacos with some incredible packaging, with incredible culture, so many different point of views. With that being said, why don't we get started and do some proper intros from everyone? We'll start from left to right. Erle, why don't you go? I feel like you should take some extra time. And more importantly, you have a new job as well. Came out of retirement, retirement announcement.
Yeah, I don't know how it happened, Nabil, but it did. For those of you I haven't met, my name is Erle Dardick. I am the current Chief Strategy Officer here at Lunchbox. I also have a school called the Off-Premises Growth Academy that I hope to introduce to you all at some point. My journey in food service spans more than 2.5 decades. I spent most of my career as a restaurant operator and built a software venture around order management for catering and takeout and delivery. And I had previously exited in that venture to very blessed to be able to exit that venture to Easy Cater 4 years ago. So for me, I've had a 4-year break. I've been keeping close to the space. I've been looking at hundreds of order management systems and trying to understand the space, specifically multi-unit restaurant operators. And I'm really excited about this conversation today, Nabil.
That's awesome. Thank you for the intro. Aaron, how you doing, buddy?
Good. Thanks for having me, Nabil. I appreciate the invite. Yeah, just a quick intro. I'm Aaron. I'm one of the co-founders of DeliverThat. I currently head our strategy. DeliverThat, in a nutshell, we are a white label catering delivery management platform. We've got over 20,000 drivers across 50 states, servicing about 8,500 zip codes. We take pride in our service and our drivers, and we look to be an extension of the brands we work with.
And let's talk to a customer of yours and myself, Aaron. Let's get an introduction from Karen very quickly.
Hi, thanks for having me. My name is Karen Reed. I am the director of off-premise for Condado Tacos. I've been with Condado for almost 4 years. We are a build-your-own taco concept. My background really started in restaurants. I've been in restaurant operator for 20 years, moved kind of into the catering segment, and then kind of went back. So now I'm in the restaurant and catering side. So thanks so much for having me. I'm looking forward to the discussion.
Thank you for joining. And Karen, we used to be coworkers.
Yes.
How was I back then? Was I still as lovely as I'm today?
No, I think you still got that spark and that shine. And I love seeing on this platform, and I love seeing the growth that you've really had. So it's always good to see a familiar face. And it was really happy that you invited us. Thank you.
And how far away are you sitting from Josh right now?
We actually learned our lesson. We are in different rooms, but I would say about 50 feet.
Yeah, 50 feet is good. 50 feet is good distance. Josh, I would love your intro.
Thanks, Nabil. Thank you for having us. My name is Josh Peebles, and I'm the senior catering manager with Condado. Joined Condado back in February of 2020, and I manage the day-to-day operations and sales for Condado Catering, and along with future initiatives for the department.
Amazing. Awesome, team. My name is Nabil, CEO here at Lunchbox, and really excited to be here and a packed agenda. So let's get started. We're going to move quickly. We have so many important things to touch on. Here's our agenda. We're going to talk about the landscape, the catering landscape. We're going to talk about food at work. I think that's very different than any other version of catering. We'll touch on that. We'll talk about the importance of first-party channels and the importance of third-party as well, actually. We're going to talk about the segmentations, the different types of, way catering, restaurants that are catering has to show up. Then we're going to go ahead and talk about your tech stack and strategy and partnerships you need to have. So we're going to touch on a lot of things, and we'll end with Q&A. All right, so let's move quickly. We have so many different things to touch on. The first thing I want to talk about is understanding the current landscape of catering. One of the things we have seen is post-pandemic, catering is back. Catering is back, and we're seeing a huge rise in catering. And I would love to actually pass on to Karen from Condado. What are you guys seeing over there? How's the demand out there? What are you noticing pre-pandemic to today?
Yeah, so kind of as we said, we started the catering platform in February of 2020. So perfect timing, right? Right before the pandemic. And one thing that we realized even then at the time, and we're still seeing now, is that understanding that catering isn't just about large groups. It's not about 50 people. It's not about 100 people, right? We cater groups of 8, groups of 10. So it's definitely focusing and recognizing that catering doesn't have to be large. The biggest thing too that we're seeing is that the demand is there, but so is the competition. More and more businesses that we're seeing, more restaurants, and especially in all the regions that we're in, have jumped on the catering bandwagon because they recognize that is a great way to expand their brand. It is a great way to get their food and their culture in front of people that may not go to their restaurants or have gone to their restaurants. And I think that's going to continue to happen. And another trend that, we were talking about even earlier as we look at, our menu and what we offer is dietary restrictions are also becoming super prevalent. When you go to a restaurant, you order food, right? You individually can talk about your dietary restrictions. But when you're talking about large format, when you're talking about catering, it does get a little tricky. And so that is something that we've seen across the board in all of our regions, and something that we really cater to. We're really, really focused on ensuring that everyone is, has options to choose from.
That's amazing, Karen. And then if we zoom out even more, let's zoom out over 20 years, Erle. You get to see, a couple of different cycles of this. You've seen this again and again. Any perspective to add on top of Karen's?
For sure. Maybe it's interesting. I've been thinking back on my own journey. Of course, things have changed, but it's all kind of the same. It's so interesting to me. Many brands, and there's many on this call, for example, who are well advanced in their strategies, well advanced in what they're doing. They've been getting results for decades. And we still have many brands who just haven't even really started yet, or we have some in the middle where they've been at it for a few years. And so there's this big, sort of span of experience, if you will, within the industry. I think everybody understands at this point now that catering is core to our business. I think we all get that. But I do think that for the most part, as an industry, we underestimate the effort, the investment, the actual, what has to happen to get this a lift, specifically in the restaurant space, multi-units, because we are competing with ghost kitchens, commissaries. It's all kind of blending, convenience stores, grocery, it's all kind of coming together. We could do a whole webinar on that on its own, but there's a huge market. It's growing. Catering is still being defined. And there's a lot to go after.
That's awesome, Erle. And Karen, thank you for your thoughts there. I wanted to start with, food at work. Right? State of the food at work in 2023. I was looking at research, and these stats are great, but the number one thing that restaurant CEOs and managers are offering to, attract employees back to work is food, right? Which we understand, like the most human thing in the world. That's something that connects us all. So, I feel like this is the most important part of the segmentation out there, but I would love to just start and talk about all different segmentation out there, Erle. So why don't you take us through all the different ways a restaurant can cater, right? Like universities, corporates, and all of that.
Yeah, well, I think, we have to be intentional at the brand level. The truth is the food at work movement is being led by Easy Cater. They are the best at it. They're amazing at driving demand and sales. And they're pointing the way for the rest of us in terms of where we should be focusing. It used to be that the B2B catering was like downtown offices. So if you were in an urban setting, you could hit law firms, insurance firms, that kind of thing. Lunch was good for learning, training, sales meetings, all that kind of stuff. And during the pandemic, we had some displacement and the market shifted. And so the food at work concept shifted because people actually left work. And so that opened up pockets. So for example, if you look at manufacturing plants, if you're sitting in any sort of manufacturing heavy outskirts of the city, many of those facilities had on-site catering services that was, being serviced through the likes of Sodexo, Aramark, those types of things. During the pandemic, those operations got shut down. Many of them didn't open the deal. So there became this sort of opening on restaurants and brands being able to fill that need, which is to, really have food available. And the programs also started to segment. So where does takeout begin and end? Where does catering begin and end? What is drop-off catering? What is set up and retrieve catering? What is event catering? These are massive conversations that we need to understand as a community, specifically in the restaurant space, because the blend between private dining and, contract catering and bar mitzvahs and drop-off catering, these are all very, very different segments. And we have to strategically and be very intentional about each one of those channels to bring the strategy together. Does that help?
That helps. That helps a lot. I got to ask you, Team Condado, how are you marketing to all of those different clientele, right? Let's say the corporate marketing versus the bar mitzvah. How are you guys attracting them? How are you letting them know we're here and we have awesome tacos?
Yeah, it's actually something that we recently did and are still currently working on. We took and said, hey, when we look at talking to a customer for a corporate luncheon versus someone for a wedding, very two different conversations. The needs are very different, right? The needs of the social aspect are probably a little bit more than the needs of the business. So what we did is we really looked at our platform and said, how can we best help those conversations if we don't even actually have that conversation to talk. So if you were to go and Google business catering near me, right? I did that even just now. Condado comes up, but it's not condado.com. It is a specific catering page, all focused around home or around business and offices. So that page is specifically dedicated to those who are looking for corporate lunches, corporate events. And then we're in the process of currently finalizing our specific page for weddings and social. Again, going back to what Erle said, right? The segments are very different. So everything in the conversations, the content behind it, all have to be very specific to that client. Because at the end of the day too, right? Catering is convenient, but the convenience also has to be where they're looking, how they're seeking it out and finding it.
Aaron, no matter how amazing the tacos are, someone's going to have to deliver them, and someone has to make sure that they show up to all these different segments appropriately. Can you walk us through all the different ways you're delivering, let's say, Condado tacos, and what are the nuances and the changes you have to make for each of the segments?
Yeah, well, it's actually pretty simple. We rely a lot on the instructions provided to us and knowing the customer's location, the type of customer. Like, delivering to a birthday party is significantly different than delivering to a boardroom. Luckily for Condados, their packaging is so on point. It's easy to set up the order at any drop-off location. But you've got to consider all those, pieces, right? We talk about a full buffet setup, right? You got to make sure that the food's in the right order, napkins are out, plates are out, it's presentable. Some customers, they might want it just dropped off at their door. That's more of like the residential style delivery. But we just rely on the instructions from our partners to provide to us, and then we can articulate that through technology to our drivers.
I love that. And I love that it's not a cookie cutter. We have great service for everyone or a service for everyone. You are working with these partners to provide a white glove service. I think that's awesome.
Yeah. And the best part about it too is, one of the features we have at DeliverThat is we do proof of delivery. So we can actually showcase a lot of Condado's setup pictures because, they're immaculate. So we have that proof of delivery. We can show, the brand, hey, this delivery, the food was set up great. Maybe it wasn't set up great. We can, coach our driver after the fact, but it's all facilitated through technology.
That's amazing. Thank you for a great discussion there. So let's keep moving. We talked about different segmentation. Let's talk about first party and first party ordering. Let's talk about a little bit about third party ordering. I think Easy Cater is obviously doing incredible work there. So Erle, I feel like you have experience on both sides. Why don't you give us the importance of the two and how should one, approach the two? And then Karen, let's go to you and talk about why you decided to invest in first party this year. So Erle, I'll give it to you first.
Great. Yeah, thanks, Nabil. So first of all, I think any brand that wants to facilitate growth in their off-premises business has to understand and adopt the strategy of how to layer takeout and catering together within the same facility. And this is the complexity of what we face as operators. First party is really about building relationships directly in your communities. If you have a brand and you're on the street and you're there, it's a lot of work today to be able to maintain relationships with your customers. It's not what it used to be. It used to be in the old days, we'd run a television ad or we'd put up a billboard. We might run a radio ad. And
what's a radio?
Exactly. What's a radio? But that's how it was in the old days. These are how the biggest brands in the world were built through billions and billions of dollars of advertising that went into these brands, and it became America's beautiful brands. And we all have our favorites. And so this exercise that we're going through in the paradigm shift of this off-premises conversation is really about designing experiences for your customers in your communities to come back and spend more money with you as frequently as possible. So that's the segmentation. That's where we're getting into offering more products and services in a way that has to be thoughtful. Because if we put too much stuff on the menu, it's overwhelming our operations and we can't execute. And so by actually differentiating menus is how we control this process. And that's directly connected to our facilities in terms of how we're doing our fulfillment as we think through our kitchens and design and throughput. The thing is, so the first party strategy is absolutely critical. The third party channel is also important. And it's really important to understand that not all third party marketplaces are the same. And so the B2B marketplaces like Easy Cater is leading the way. Cater Nation, another one, Kyle and Mike, they do great work. Canvassing, getting business, driving demand. The reason why it works in the catering channel is because for two reasons. One is these are very high value orders. and our margins are always better in catering. So that's one piece. The second piece is it's really expensive and difficult and hard to recruit talent to build sales organizations for brands, especially national. And so unless you're prepared to do that as a brand and follow in the suits of the likes of brands like, Panera Bread, I think Jason's Deli, all these, Boston Market, there's some old timers, we'll call them, that really built this infrastructure over decades. You need to be in there competing in that space. So building relationships. So first party and third party become an excellent strategy. The third party, especially in markets where you don't want to necessarily invest in salespeople, that's a great place to begin. So kudos. Yeah, that's what I would recommend.
I love that. So get third party first, improve your operations, get ready for it, see if there's a demand, then move to first party. Karen, you made that choice this year. Why did you decide to move to first party, and why now? Well, I would love to understand the thought process.
Erle really laid out the ground pretty well in terms of, how we did it. It's, first party for us, it goes back to brand and voice, right? On some of these other platforms, you don't have the flexibility and the option to create your own narrative, to use your brand. And with first party channels, we're really taking that and owning it. It allows us to display specific pictures, images, the way that we talk to our guests. It's a very direct connect way to our customer base. And look, I definitely agree with Erle on the third party piece as well, right? We are just building our Salesforce team now. We're in a ton of different regions. Some states that we are currently in, we have one location. Right. I don't know financially if it justifies a sales team member yet, but that's where third party comes in. And at the end of the day, third party allows you to have a lot more eyeballs on your platform than any one individual salesman or member could do. So yeah, and selecting now, now is now, right? I feel the pandemic sort of behind us. We're in year 3, approaching year 4 of really driving home, our catering platform in our department and this segment of the business. And there's no better time than the present. And especially, partnering with Lunchbox, it just makes perfect sense for where we are at in the business.
Absolutely. Guys, thank you for that overview on how to approach, I feel like you have to do both, and you have to do both well. There's a sequencing to it. And you guys laid that out so clearly for us. Why you decided to move to first party now was because of your brand. And I love that. And that brings us to the next segment, which is setting up our, catering business for success. Right. So let's talk about that, and let's start with you guys and the importance of optimizing your menu and packaging and showing up at these places, at these boardrooms with your, let's say, your mini storefront. Right. So I'll go to you, Karen and team first. You guys just rebranded your packaging. Take us to the thought process. What were you trying to solve for?
Yeah, we had really great packaging before this rebrand, but at the same time, it was a refresh. For us, recognizing again that the value of our brand can extend outside the 4 walls. If anyone's ever walked in any of our Condados before, it is floor to ceiling artwork. That is what is part of our brand. Bright, fun, colorful. We typically want anyone to come into the restaurant and see that. But how can we still have that same experience at a boardroom or at a birthday party? And really, that's when we took a look at our boxes and said, let's add color. Let's add those same elements that people experience in the store and put it in our boxes. And people eat with their eyes, like not only from a food aspect, but especially from a packaging. And for us, it was really, really important that we were thoughtful and intentional, a big one, about everything that we did when it came to our packaging and the rebrand of our packaging. And also that it's, for delivery, teams like Aaron, that it also makes sense from an operations standpoint. Is it easy to move from A to B? Is it easily stackable? There's a lot of pieces that went into play when it came to how we looked at our packaging. Mm-hmm. And I think we kind of discussed it either, right? Some companies really look at it as a line item in their P&L. And I'm not saying that we don't focus and understand paper costs, but we also know that the investment in good packaging reaps a lot of benefits and rewards. So, I love the stuff that we do. It's so bright. I love seeing it on screen. And I hope that people really can grasp that Condado experience, even from our packaging, let alone our food.
The most important thing to me is after we're all done, how easy it is going to be to get rid of it or take it home. And you guys, I think, just nailed it. I mean, this looks so much fun. It's really, really fun stuff. And it's, I've never been inside a Condado Tacos, but I have such a great sense of what it will feel like when I get there. And I think you guys have accomplished, check, 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 all of that. Aaron, you got tagged over there, buddy. I know you're a fan, by the way. When we were prepping, you were like raving about the packaging. Tell us about what good packaging looks like from your point of view and what great does not look like.
I mean, you're looking at phenomenal packaging right now. And, like I talked about earlier today, yes, I am a huge Condado Tacos fan. I had it 2 nights ago. It was incredible. So if you have not had it, try it. But from a delivery aspect, right, food has to be able to get from A to B intact, same integrity. That's why our drivers have thermal bags, so they can transport the food as it's intended to be. I would look at even a prerequisite to having incredible packaging is it going to keep the food, like the hot food hot, the cold food cold? Is it not going to spill everywhere? I can't tell you how many times that there are, some restaurants that don't. I'll take soup, for example, or baked beans. They're not saran wrapping the top all the way around, and it's spilling in drivers' bags. Mm-hmm. So it's got to be packaged in a way that it can get from A to B intact, same integrity. And then when you have branding like this, I mean, who wouldn't want to have or stop by Condados after seeing that packaging? So, I mean, that is to a T the way I would tell you to do it.
Josh, did you want to add something, sir?
Yeah, on the packaging too, you'll see a QR code. There's actually 2 there. We thought it'd be a great way for the guest and also for delivery drivers to help set them up for success with their delivery order. But if they would scan that QR code, it takes them to a fun video on how to set up their catering order. A lot of these orders can come quite large, quite a few boxes, be a little overwhelming to somebody that is setting up. So that was just an interactive piece that we're proud of, and we've got a lot of positive feedback on. And again, it helps the delivery drivers as well. Lastly, too, there's another QR code there that leads to our founder, Joe Kahn, and he gives a nice little interactive way to build the perfect taco. And another way of bringing the Condado experience to the guest on our catering side by showing off some taco hacks. So we thought that was a cool piece.
I love that. I think what you guys are doing is just bridging that gap as much as possible between, the in-store hospitality versus when you're not there. You're trying to just gap, that there's a big gap there. You're trying to just take away as much as possible. And I think that's just incredible. And I think everyone can show up in their own way and do that. Like what is on the other side of that QR code or that messaging, I think every brand has a different story to tell. And with that, I'm going to ask you something, Erle. I got to ask you a tough question, Erle. What is wrong with us as operators? Like, why do we spend so much money on a $30 order, delivery order and packaging, and not more on a $300 average order for catering? Like, why the margin is so much better on catering, but we spend all our dollars on the small orders? We should be doing the opposite, if anything.
If we really slow down and we look at it and be like each operator and see what you're actually doing in catering, my bet is you can actually drive costs down while bringing your brand forward. A lot of brands are using like plastic trays, right? They're using those plastic trays or plastic tops. They're manufactured by Pactiv, Those are oil-based products. They fluctuate in price. They're expensive. You can't even go back. They're really expensive. When you drive into corrugated cardboard, which is where this has gone, this is where you can do large-scale print runs, full color, get the brand view, and you can drive your costs down on a per unit basis in terms of the vessel that you decide to transport your food in. Mm-hmm. This is a brilliant, brilliant exercise. And then, on top of that is layering in for moisture and heat, all that kind of stuff. So the solutions are all out there. Work with your packaging vendors. I would say for the most part, operators, certainly in accounting and finance, a lot of the operations, they're driving costs down on packaging all the time because they're thinking napkins, straws, that stuff. This is a different category. This is actually, you need to actually invest. Paper cost on this particular should be higher. I mean, I don't know how many tacos fit in there, but that's probably a $200 tray or more, Karen. I don't know. What is that? Is that more? Or?
So this is our build your own, or this is our suggested taco box. So you get 24 tacos and you can choose out of our, I think we have 13 or 14 now suggested tacos, which ones you like. So it almost offers like a sampler platter, so to speak, of tacos.
But what's the value of that box? What is it?
We actually just changed our pricing. Josh, can you remind me what the price is?
Oh, it's okay. Just ballpark. It's okay. I didn't mean to put you on the spot. Sorry.
I think it was like one between 150 and 175.
Yeah. So 3 of those is like, $500-600 on the table. I mean, what's the packaging cost in there? Maybe like, I don't know, $10. Like
give or take.
Yeah. Yep. So there's the analysis. Yeah. Okay.
Guys, we're gonna clip this out and send it to the catering managers and directors in the chat, so you guys can send it to your finance department and ask for more money, because the investing here is so important. And if you want, we can have Earl send you voicemails and help you convince them, because I think this is where we need to, spend some capital to go ahead and continue to build a movement. Not every brand is ready for catering. You look at this brand and you realize that this is easy, this is quick, everything's ready, and there's all things for all people as well in this box. It's intentional. It's designed to make the catering manager's job easier on the other side, whoever is requesting it. Okay, with that, let's move to the next page. Let's talk about a little bit about scaling catering. Let's start with a centralized Salesforce approach. Before I do, I read a fun fact that just blew my mind. 50% or more of catering orders are placed via phone, and makes sense. I get it, right? And when I was hearing that, I was like, all right, I wonder who's on the other side of that phone, and how do you optimize that? How do you improve that? So Earl, I'm going to go ahead and look to you first on what should organizations consider when building out their catering sales force? What role does also tech play into it? Would love to let you take us there.
Yeah, I love this question, Nabil, because I actually believe that this is where restaurants have fallen behind. And this is where marketplaces figured out that if they ramp up answering their phones, looking after customers, handling deliveries, and generally just servicing the customer, they beat us to the customer. That's really what happened. There was a gap there between the services that restaurants could provide to their clients, because many restaurants, 100 locations, the phone rings in 100 different places. It's like you got to have 2 people per store trained. That's 200 people answering phones. The systems aren't there to support it. They're trying to put it into POS. I'm talking catering orders now. Okay. So this is really off premises. It's takeout is in this conversation, but moving into a centralized approach creates specialization. And so what you end up with is you take that pressure out of the restaurants, and you can actually get catering sales specialists who can slow down long enough to work with the clients. Because sometimes a catering order might be, I want to place catering for 4 days next week. I need breakfast, lunch, dinner. It's 12 orders. It's going out to 30 different stores. These are complex, large value transactions. So centralizing that process is critical. And you have a choice. You can do it first party, whether you want to build your own and answer your own phones. I do see a lot of success with outsourcing to call centers, like companies like Triple Impact, for example. David Sawicki does a great job on answering phones for catering and for takeout. So basically, the centralization approach on order entry is absolutely critical. And remember, when you deploy technology into a cloud-based solution and you move everybody into the cloud, that is centralization. That is what you are doing. You're moving consumers into a shared experience with your operations, which is creating a real-time experience for consumers, which improves the service process, okay? And so centralizing is critical. And the same thing with sales, outbound sales. You can centralize and do it yourself, or you can actually look for partners like Tracy and Byron at New Connections. There's a number of people who can help drive demand first party for you. So lots to think about there, okay?
When do you get a sales team, or what is too big? What is too small? What size should you? When do you approach that?
Look, if it's me, I'm going right out of the gate, Nabil. I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a business person. I'm an operator. I'm going to take my best foot forward. It's a key investment that we have to make. It's the same as buying a van or buying a table or a cooler. It's no different. We need to invest in at least one resource, at least one, that is driving local demand, and maybe playing a coordinator role on everything else as well, depending on the size and scale of your operation, okay? So the more enterprise we talk here, and there's some big brands on the call, it's a different conversation than we're having with a single unit multi-restaurant operator.
Aaron, did you want to add something before I go to Karen?
Yeah, Earl, I guess a question for you.
Yes.
Would utilizing marketplaces be part of the strategy indefinitely? That's got to be, right?
Yes, 100%. Absolutely. The thing is this. The marketplace business, as we get into the conversation and off premises, it's important. Like, again, catering marketplaces are different than takeout marketplaces. So when we get into the conversation, we look at a takeout marketplace, and we know who they are, right? DoorDash, Uber Eats, all that stuff. The differentiation in channels, the segmentation of menu parity is not a strategy with those marketplaces. We actually need to create products that are designed for those channels, because we're in a lower margin business. We need volume. We got to change our kitchen, have fewer products, drive higher volume. It's a wholesale channel. Catering is not like that. It's a different animal altogether. And a marketplace partner, there is a true partnership ecosystem potentially with companies like Easy Cater, where you can work together. There is that, because these are high value, high margin orders. It depends on what investment the brands want to make and then you got to negotiate that agreement. There's some tension there because it's, for obvious reasons. Yeah.
Absolutely. I'll go to the next slide because I think it's really impressive what Condado Taco has done. You guys have doubled. Is this crazy? Am I making this up? You guys have doubled your revenue. I would love to discuss not only how you've done that. I think we're going to talk about that throughout the presentation, but I would like to discuss what happened to you guys operationally when you guys had to deal with more large scale orders and even more of them, like doubling your revenue there from catering alone. So Josh, to you, how do you optimize your kitchens for large scale orders?
Yeah, so there originally, most of our earlier on locations have extremely small kitchens, and it would be pretty wild seeing how these teams got these large catering orders put together. A lot of these locations are seeing 8 to 10 catering orders being sent out all within a 1 hour time period. Going on about two years ago now, any new location that came on board, it was outlined and they allowed for kitchen space just for catering. That was a huge aspect. Then if you go on further to that, to what the teams do on a daily basis in order to be organized, we created par sheets, checklists, prep lists, and just doing whatever we could to set up teams for success to operate these large scale orders coming out of these kitchens.
That's super helpful. So let's go on this slide. Let's stay here for a little bit longer. Erle, what are the top 3 things that restaurants need to keep top of mind as they deal with larger and larger orders?
I think the big thing to keep in mind is we must appreciate that the large value B2B transactions, as we call catering, okay, we need further definition as a brand. The brand has to define exactly what it means to the brand. It's a very important exercise. But I would say, treat it as a separate business. It's a different business. Okay. And as a restaurant organization, we have the complexity of managing our restaurants. So, we're competing with others who don't necessarily have that complexity. And so as you move forward and you create the vision for your brand, technology is the major, major thing that facilitates. Without all this technology, none of this happens. And so order management is your number one most urgent critical decision you have to make. And how do you actually assess the right order management system for your organization? And that's directly tied into what is your off-premises space strategy. In the restaurant space specifically, we have infrastructure that sits at point of sale. We all know what that looks like. Layering a digital stack on top of that infrastructure is the magic that actually creates the orchestra, if you will, between the digital world and the infrastructure that we have. The key is, and this is the thing, and this is really why I came to Lunchbox, okay, is because getting takeout and catering in one place, that is the key. And historically, it started off in point of sale, technology changed, all the online ordering, people came along, the catering people came along, we all went separate, none of it talked together, okay? Then the marketplaces came around, then all the delivery, and then all the APIs. This is the time we're in right now, okay? Mm-hmm. And I believe the next generation of order management, the winning horse, the one that makes sense, is the one where you have takeout and catering in one place. And you can centralize both channels and all the sub-channels under it. And so you can drive transactions to point of sale for manufacturing on your takeout channel, but for the B2B catering channel, you need another back-end tool set that lives within the ERP space, order fulfillment, accounting, ordering, production, all the stuff we've been talking about. Okay. And so finding an order management system that does both of those well, it's been a very, very difficult task. So that's why I came.
Yeah. Aaron.
Yeah. And from our perspective, you can be the best delivery. You could be, Uber. It doesn't matter if the food isn't produced on time, intact, and packaged correctly. So when that driver gets there to pick up the order, he can leave on time and make his drop off. This should be the number one area where restaurants look at improving, because from our business, right, from DeliverThat, when we talk about issues we have to deal with on deliveries, roughly 85% of them are caused by restaurants not having food prepared on time. So, this is this should be it should be 1A, 1B, should be the focal point for restaurants right now, is to figure out how to manage their catering orders.
Very helpful. Thank you, Aaron, for jumping in. We've heard a lot about packaging. We've heard about, production. I want to talk about, data and insight, and all of that is in the CRM. And I think most CRMs were designed even poorly for regular delivery, let alone not serving enough to catering customer data. So my question is to you, Josh, and Team Condado. What do you feel like the catering industry is missing when it comes to CRM tools? And by the way, like, one of the things you guys mentioned in the prep is that's one of the reasons you guys are actually excited by Lunchbox. So would love to hear a little bit, like, what is there that you guys are actually looking at? I would love other operators and to hear about, like, what are some of the data points we collectively should be investing in more, so not just collecting the data but making it actionable later as well. So Josh, off to you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, we've had a lot of opportunity when it comes to CRM. Currently, we've been operating off of old school spreadsheets, downloads. It takes a while, very manual, a lot of sorting through information. And one of the things that we're excited about in the future was that to gain a more robust marketing piece when it comes to our CRM, utilizing email blasts, a way to give our first-time ordering guests a promotion to try to drive repeat order. We'd like to give our sales team better opportunity, whether it be alerts, for one of their guests from previous to have an anniversary alert for their from their first-time order from a year ago, or give a percentage or $1 off for every 5 orders that they place with us. We also look at it as if there's been an issue. If we can look up at the customer and see that, like, hey, we messed up on the last order, we want to take care of you. Just to continue to grow our guest experience, our database with that more robust CRM.
And one of the things I wanted to ask you, Erle, is, how have you seen the best brands use that data? Would love to hear your insight there as well.
Yeah, I mean, the brands that are, looking after their data. I mean, first of all, the CRM, to your point, Nabil, defining what it is for catering is a huge conversation.
Yeah.
But essentially, it's really about, managing the relationship with your customers. It really should be embedded in part of an order management system. So ultimately, and to me, there's 2 parts. There's data mining, which is like, we should be able to query the database. And I mean, AI is doing, Lunchbox is doing this. We're going like, show me all the customers who haven't ordered in the last 90 days. Boom, there it is. There, what should we be doing with that? We should be on the phones. We should be calling them. We should be saying, hi, we haven't heard from you in a while. Hey, find out why they went away. This is effort. You got to roll your sleeves up and get to work and manage your customers. All of those conversations, follow-ups, all need to get recorded into the right tool set so that you can keep all the history, assign tasks, assign follow-ups, get that machine going. So it's a combination of what I would say CRM and maybe sales lead tracking. It's really a sales-based tool, and mining that data is just such a big and important thing,
Absolutely. I have a important slide for you to take over, Aaron. So I feel like this is just, this is your entire world, right? I don't think last mile delivery gets enough credit. And I think they deserve even more so credit when it comes to catering, right? I think in catering that it matters so much more. It's not just dropping something off anymore. So I want you and Karen to talk, because you guys work together. Like, what does this doing right looks like? What does this doing wrong look like? I would love to hear the operator's point of view and also the tech provider's point of view. And, I will step out of it.
Karen, if you want to lead us off, I mean.
No, I mean, we have a lot of partners, and obviously we work very, very closely with DeliverThat. I think Nabil hit it right on the head, right? Delivering a individual lunch is very, very different than ordering and delivering catering. We offer drop-off and setups. I know that is something that is crucially important. I can't tell you how many comments we get from guests that say they delivered on time, everything's accurate, it looks amazing, nobody set it up, right? And a lot of those delivery companies don't necessarily have the right potential infrastructure in place to set those delivery drivers up for success, right? Some things that we've seen and on our end from the last mile delivery piece, which is, Aaron makes a great point. One, sometimes restaurants do not have the orders on time, but once they leave, it's I'm picking up more than one order. When a driver picks up more than one order, we can always, guess what could potentially happen. Someone's getting the wrong food, but that also means the other person's getting the wrong food. And now you're impacting the restaurant operation side, because not only do you have 2 unhappy customers, but now you're costing the restaurants to remake both orders. There is a ton of opportunity too when it comes to ensuring that the delivery drivers have knowledge about catering. As you guys can see here, this is very detailed on laid out how we do things, but do we know that, shells should go first, then proteins, then toppings, right? That's why we also use the QR code. It's not necessarily only for the guest point, but from a delivery driver standpoint, right? It's a multi-purpose tool when it comes to how to set people and drivers up for success. And I know that we touched base about this too. Someone coming and picking up a delivery order that's $3,000 and they are coming with a Prius, right? Is it the right vehicle? Do we have the right delivery driver with the right experience? I mean, there's a lot of different pieces that go into delivery, and we've had great success with DeliverThat. And I know one thing Erle touched base on is really partnering directly with a DSP partner, which is something that we are entertaining with DeliverThat, because we want someone to have the same expectation of customer service as we do. And that kind of goes back into a lot of times the guest doesn't realize that this is a third-party delivery driver. It's not Condado specific. So we don't want anyone to ever feel that there's a shift in that brand, that it's all cohesive, and that there's always a good representation and execution of any catering order.
Love that, Karen. Aaron, would love to hear from the other point of view. Yeah.
I don't know if I can provide a more valuable answer than that. I mean, just right on. I mean, look at how beautiful this layout is. Imagine you're telling a customer that, or showcasing this online, and they get something completely different, right? An order just dropped off at their doorstep. That is why brands who take catering extremely serious, they have to have a direct relationship with the DSPs they're working with. It's the only way we're ever going to get to know your brand inside and out like you are. I love the fact that you guys care about our drivers and treat them like team members. That's why they love delivering your food. These third-party drivers are human beings. You're competing for their time in a way now. I mean, people know about catering now. The opportunity, it's there. So, other restaurants are competing for that driver's time. How can you stand out as a brand to make sure that driver feels like, hey, I want to take the Condado tacos deliveries every single time. So that's all I would say, to piggyback off what Karen said, is like working with the DSP directly. It's going to alleviate some of those major operational hurdles where it's like the left hand's not talking to the right. The quality has to be there, right? We don't want to send a driver for a $3,000 order that has a bike, right? Maybe send a couple drivers. Maybe you don't want to stack deliveries for a certain brand. That's why you want to work with your delivery provider directly.
Hey, Aaron, what's the most white glove thing you guys have done? Any fun stories out there? And what was the nicest someone made you do? One of your partners made you do?
Man, it's been about a year since I've had any crazy delivery stories. I mean, we used to do full service catering, like serving, setting up, buffet style. Like I'm talking serving everything too. We've done a ton of pro sports venues. I mean, we have some absolutely incredible people and incredible stories. I wish I had some off the top of my head just to share.
All right. I love it. Either way, I think I think what you guys do and how closely you guys have to work together to get it right is a testimony to this is not a drop off. This is so much more than that.
Yeah, this is not a burrito going to a college student. This setup right here is going to a sales meeting, a boardroom. It needs to look like this almost every single time. And
warnings for everyone. Don't show up to Karen's restaurant with a Prius is my takeaway there. So the next chapter, I think it's the final chapter for our conversation, and we'll go to Q&A, is perfecting the digital experience, right? We've talked about the last mile delivery, the packaging, production. We've talked about having intention in how you show up and build all of that. Let's talk about the tech stack part of it all, right? Let's talk about the online ordering part. Erle, I will go ahead and look at, point to you. What backend features make it important for you to go ahead and pick a online ordering system? Because the front end is all the same. They all look great. Yeah. They all look amazing. What are we looking for in the back?
I know this is the shift. I mean, it's not about online ordering. The UI, there's a gazillion designs and so many ways of optimizing ordering, way beyond my skill set. Like there's people who do that, optimizing workflow and all that stuff. For me, the connection of the online experience into an engagement with the brand in a conversation around takeout, delivery, and catering, that's online ordering to me, okay? And this is so critical. When you put that into the cloud and you share a back-end tool set, you asked me the question, what do we need there? Well, that's everything we've been talking about today. The back-end tool set needs to have CRM, sales lead tracking, conversational ordering based on channel. When I'm taking birthday party orders, taking drop-off orders, set up, depending on what the brand strategy is, it's got to be able to handle these different channels based on menu, and experience. When you shift to another menu in the conversation at the call center, depending on the event, the script changes. It's different questions, okay? This is what you need to look for in an order management system, a true omni-channel order management system. It's got to be able to handle the B2C transactions. It's got to be able to handle the B2B transactions. It needs to be able to be everything, as I mentioned, from the ordering, accounting, accounts receivable management, production, delivery is in there. It's got to connect through the APIs into the ecosystem in our restaurant space. We all know what that looks like. Okay. And you need to put the strategy behind it. Okay. Or actually the other way around. The strategy goes in front of it. The technology comes in behind it to support the activities. And this is so critical. When you're looking at an online ordering system, you need to connect it directly to your operations. Okay. The path of least resistance to this point in our history has been that online ordering providers have connected into point of sale. And the reason why that is because of the legacy infrastructure. It doesn't work for catering orders.
Josh, he talked about the back end and all the tools he's looking for, right? He put it on his operator hat. When you guys picked your new online ordering system, what were you looking for from the customer's point of view? The front end, the user experience, what were you looking for from there? Would love to get your insight there so we can get a 360 view of how our friends in the chat should be looking at as they evaluate their system, if they're evaluating at all.
Absolutely. Like you said earlier, that there's so many that look the same from the front, but really that smooth, that ease of ordering. One thing that we did look for is a way to have, upsell opportunities that are just automatically generated, whether it be add-ons, more robust add-on features. That was really important to us. Another thing too on the back end was the integration with our POS system. That was an absolutely huge decision maker for us. Being able to have that, being able to take that out of our hands from our team members for accuracy, that was a huge process for us.
Karen?
Can I add something? Sorry, I didn't know. Is there like a raise a hand button on here? And I would say it's got to be scalable. Right?
Yeah.
We are growing our department and our brand at a really fast pace, a controllable pace, but a fast pace. And so we need to also find the right partner, which we have definitely found in you guys, that can help us scale and grow at the same time.
Yeah.
We do partner with another third party. And at the end of the day, we have even heard from them that we've outgrown them. And so our biggest next step in terms of where do we go next and who is that right partner? Well, you guys were. And in the scalable part and being able to help grow and grow alongside was at most super crucial for us as we continue that journey.
That's incredible insight there. Aaron, I'm going to tag you, sir. We heard from Erle what we're looking for in the back. Karen and Josh told us about what they're looking from the operator's point of view, a little bit about front end, a little bit about what the kitchen needs. They want it to go directly into the POS. They don't want to plug it into the system. Okay. And then let's go to your part, the online ordering system and your system, the order management system and your system. Does it need to connect, or is it does it matter? Should we just ping you and say, send a driver, or does it need to be more than that?
For me, there is a direct correlation between the order management and delivery management for catering orders. They're so reliant on each other. Predominantly all caterings are deliveries. I would say over 90, 95% minimum. As a restaurant, right, you can make the food, package it great, it's ready to go. But what happens if a driver shows up 45 minutes late? No, bad experience for your customer. Same thing with the driver. Shows up on time, bags, looks the part, great car, great vehicle. Food's not ready. Well, now what? They're going to be late to the customer. They might not want to take a delivery from that place ever again. So yes, I would say for us, it's about execution. It's about getting the food ready on time, pairing that driver, the right driver, to make it to the restaurant on time, pick it up, get signed out at that restaurant, make sure the handoff actually happens correctly, and then go execute that last mile piece. It's as simple as that.
So it's, again, not as simple as ping Relay or ping the nearest driver or ping DoorDash and just send someone, I'll send it back. It has to be so much more than that. There's so much information sharing that's happening there. What is the best, deepest integration you've seen, and what have you seen there that happens between the order management system and you? How much information are you sending back to Karen, to Josh?
It's a bevy of information. I mean, it's constant. And we're talking about, real-time driver locations, status updates. I mean, you name it. We've had a very fruitful relationship with EasyCater. They've been a great partner of ours. And that's how we've scaled our operation with them over the last 5 years by being directly integrated with them. The time a customer places an order, it makes it to our system. There's that direct connection right then and there. So to talk about, you need to be able to exchange data in real time from the second that order, is placed.
That's incredible. And that's what's needed. When someone's going to spend $300 or upwards of that, that's what's needed. That's the level of integration that's needed. We all need to work together to get this right, is what I'm getting out of the order management system. Guys, anything you guys want to add on the order management system? I think this is the most important part of online ordering. It's not the front end. It's not, is it available on iOS? It's this. It's like, did we make something beautiful for the operator?
Yeah, I would say
Yeah,
this is it, man. This is the moneymaker right here. This is what's going to differentiate brands, in my opinion, to really capitalize with catering.
I saw Karen, I saw Erle.
Oh yeah, I mean, I was just gonna, echo what Aaron said. I was gonna say I don't think that we've seen anything better, and it's so important to have that direct communication and that live information. I mean, so many times things change when we know that there's a delivery, whether or not they've already picked up the order or a customer called us 5 minutes before, right? There's a different entrance, there's construction, or there's something going on. Just having that really robust order management, communication with delivery is so key to success in the business of catering.
Yeah. And one of the things I want to say, Nabil, just for our community, we're at a disadvantage when it comes to technology because of the legacy infrastructure. So let me give an example. And I think we have some people on this call who are driving commissary or ghost kitchens or that type of thing. And so what we're talking about here is the order management is a digital stack that lays on top of existing restaurant infrastructure. But that digital stack lives in its own.
Yeah.
Okay. And when you go into a ghost kitchen or a caterer who doesn't have point of sale, there's a huge advantage there because they don't need the integrations. It's a standalone system. So it's really important for operators to just slow down and really understand what I'm trying to articulate here, because finding an end-to-end solution that gets takeout and catering in one place, gives you the aggregation, gives you the payments and order, gives you the online, gives you the integrations, all the partnerships, is few and far between. They're very difficult. I mean, our industry is now just evolving to that. It's just happening.
Absolutely. Team, we talked about so many different things. Last slide of the last chapter in this ordering stack that we've talked about. It's, who is coming to a first party system? It's your loyal customer. So Karen, you guys working with our friends at Punch on using their loyalty system for regular small delivery orders, right? Are you going to bring that to catering? What is your thought process there, strategy there?
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the biggest things that we're excited about in regards to Lunchbox, because you guys already work so closely with Punch. That's something that we haven't perfected yet. We have a lot of our customers say, hey, I didn't get the points, or can I get some loyalty to it? And so we want to make that a forefront for next steps in how we're going to continue to grow and innovate. The thing that we have to be really creative and thoughtful on is that restaurant loyalty and catering loyalty is not apples to apples, right? Our loyalty program currently is every point you get $1. Well, when our average order through catering is over $500, that's a lot of loyalty for one customer. And also being strategic and saying, hey, from a restaurant standpoint, as an example, getting them to come back for a free menu item versus, spending $20, $25 versus catering to come back and incentivize them enough to spend $500. There has to be a different play in how we look at loyalty. And it's something that we constantly talk with our marketing team on. It's something that we're really diving deep into. I will be honest, we don't have it all laid out, but we know the foundation, we know the ideas behind it, and we know what we need to do differently from catering standpoint versus a restaurant loyalty standpoint. And look, we want people to come back and we all want to be incentivized. So we absolutely want to put this as a priority as we continue to grow and bring people back. And I think that goes back to the marketing piece that I know Lunchbox has. It's like using those pieces as well to say, hey, we remember you. We're thinking about you. Come back, right? This is what you get if you come back. This is the loyalty that we have because you're loyal to us. We want to be loyal back to you.
Yeah. Hey, so that question was plugged in by Aaron because he's trying to figure out how he can get more points to tackle Condado. And with that team, that was a phenomenal session. I learned so much. I'm selfishly, I've picked up so much info about the space from you all. Erle, thank you so much. You get to let us zoom out over 20 years and give us that experience. Josh, your experience from Condado and everything you're doing as this catering sales leader there. Karen, the marketing angle and every angle you bring to the table. And what you guys are doing is also like top tier. I think larger brands and smaller brands can learn from you. So I think that's really exciting. And Aaron, you bring so much information to that, the last line of defense. So I just wanted to thank our amazing speakers. And with no time wasted, we're going to move immediately to Q&A. But virtual round of applause to our amazing speakers. You're not going to hear it, but you have to imagine it. Imagine it with me, guys. Thank you so much. All right. With that being said, let's jump to Q&A. We have a question from Claudie Newman. A question for Erle. Can you discern a distinct trend for single serving meals as opposed to boxed lunch options?
Well, we all know during the pandemic, the concept of platters, buffets, and all that vanished. So everything went into a single source packaging. I think a lot of that has stayed. And I think there's still an opportunity to do a lot of business in that sort of what I would call single packaged orders. I think the definition of like where it begins and ends is going to be like, what is the billing cycle on this thing? Are you billing an account centrally? Like, are you billing a company? If so, that's a catering transaction. Are you splitting that order into 10 different payments, 10 different credit cards? One could argue it's a takeout transaction. Okay. I think there's some complexity. Those are gray areas. Our industry will continue to battle and debate that in terms of what the best approach is there. But I would say that you need both. And so what we are seeing the comeback of the buffets. I mean, as a matter of fact, I was chatting with Bob at Golden Corral last week or a couple of weeks ago, and he's going like busy, like buffets are back big time. Mm-hmm. So, we're seeing that. We're seeing platter business come back. Now, listen, we're living in this post-pandemic world. I mean, you're reading the news and there's a ramp up of, maybe COVID surge and all that again. So, I think we have to keep it fluid. We got to stay flexible. We got to be able to go both directions.
Love that. Thank you for that response. We have a question from Joshua Sumners. How many units does Condado Tacos currently have, and do all units offer catering?
Yeah, so we have 48 locations currently. We have more lined up for the rest of this year. And yes, everyone does catering. We actually launched catering less than a week after we open a new store. It's really, really important to us to have that and kind of capture that momentum, right? A lot of the places that we open stores in, we do a ton of brand marketing. People know we are coming. Well, we want to kind of tie into that energy and say, hey, guess what? We also do catering. We also do this. So yes, all of our restaurants offer catering, and they will continue to.
Okay. Thank you, Karen. Appreciate you. We have a question from Warren Deitel. If I'm mispronouncing, forgive me. Question for Aaron. Have you explored integration into specific catering operating platforms like Cateries or Synergy?
Absolutely. One of the ways we can get those integrations done is by having customers like yourself, Warren, introduce us. It just makes it a lot more easier to justify the integration time, the development time. But yeah, we have definitely explored those.
Amazing. All right. Question from Kyle Brown. How many locations does a restaurant need to be able to work with Lunchbox for catering, or volume if you look at it that way? I say reach out to us regardless. We work with enterprise customers mostly, but reach out to us regardless. And if we are not the right fit, what we work hard on is sending you the right way. What we don't want you to do is be without a service. We have many partners that are not us who also do a great job in many other areas. So reach out to us and we'll point you in the right direction. Hopefully it's us, but if not, we'll do right by you. Okay. Next question from Ben Alkire. Aaron, tell me about John backing your car into the pole or the drives back and forth to Pittsburgh every morning. Aaron, you want to take that quickly?
Come on, Ben. Are you kidding me? All right. So no, John and I started this company about 10 years ago. And while we were doing our campus delivery endeavor, he ended up backing my car while we were delivering a McDonald's order. So that's that story. Yeah. He ruined my bumper essentially. So thanks, John. I'm glad he brought up the catering stories. So this would have been back in 2016. My team and I, we would regularly take deliveries from Cleveland to Columbus, Cleveland to Pittsburgh, Cleveland to Akron, Cleveland to Canton, because that's what it took for us to get business at the time, was to take an order from a ghost. It was a ghost kitchen at the time back in 2016. We would drive it, like I said, to Pittsburgh, and those are some fun times. I'll tell you what. Okay. I still remember those like it was yesterday.
I love it. Okay. Can you please repeat the name of the catering call center? Erle, this is a question for you from Daniel.
Triple Impact. Great. They do a great job.
Triple Impact.
Yeah. David Sawicki, you can find him on LinkedIn.
He's actually in the chat. So if you can see him in the chat, one of the people in the chat, but it's Triple
Impact.
Triple Impact. Daniel Guzetta. Hopefully you got that. Okay, from Dana Navarro, curious on scaling for a $8 million catering market. How many catering sales managers would Erle recommend for a drop-off service for 23 restaurants?
Here's how I would approach that. I would figure out what the break-even analysis is on adding a catering sales manager is what I would do. So we can talk, maybe just connect with me offline. We'll talk about what the math is, but basically, figure out what that incremental cost is, and it's cost of, not only wages, but commissions and all that stuff. Figure out what the resource allocation is around to support that person. That's an incremental cost, true incremental cost to the brand. How much catering revenue do they need to generate to break even and pay for themselves? That's the question I think I would try to answer. And once we understand your catering margins, we can do the math and figure out what that is.
Awesome. Ping Erle. He's famous on LinkedIn. He's famous via text as well, and he always responds. Question from Emily Trenning, and this question's for you, Karen and Josh. What was the process of moving from third party to first party? How did you go about figuring out customer support, logistics, etc.?
Really was trying to drive guests to our first party channel, and then it didn't take long for us to realize that in order to make that happen, that we were going to need to have boots on the ground. Sales team members that live in these regions are able to build guest relationships and loyalty, basically. So over the past year, that's what we put into place, was to try to drive guests by being present in these regions. We have catering team members all over in our regions now to try to help impact that. And even till today, we do try to do as many in-house deliveries as possible. DeliverThat has been one of the partners that has been fantastic to work with, but we do operate about 70% of our own deliveries in-house.
Amazing. Let me go ahead and see a couple more questions. Question for Karen. Besides EasyCater, what is your favorite catering platform to work with?
To be honest, we haven't worked with any other catering platform outside of EasyCater and Lunchbox. So, while EasyCater really got us going and started, we explored a ton of different potential options. And at the end of the day, it came down to a lot of what we discussed in, our earlier conversations, right? The right technology, not only guest facing, but back of the house interface when it comes to operations, logistics. We talked a lot about order management. Those are really, really crucially important to us. And, one of the things that we're really excited about with our partnership in Lunchbox is having so many of those tools accessible all in one platform. So, with us only doing catering for the last 3 years, EasyCater really helped us get on that third-party platform, but we're really excited to kind of take our next steps and move with Lunchbox. And I will say about third party too, right? It's one of the things that I've noticed and I've read before in other statistics is that a lot of the times when people go on these third party platforms, they don't even necessarily know who they want to order from, right? So it is a great way for good exposure for brands outside of first party. First party is always going to be first priority, but it's such a great exposure for brands. I go on there all the time and I'm like, I don't even know. Do I want Italian? Do I want Mexican? Do I want, sandwiches, salads, etc.? So it's a great avenue to do both to expose more visibility for your brand.
I have a fun question from Chris Torres. What's the best order management system to use for catering sales today? I'll just open it up. Forget about Lunchbox for a second. Who else do we like out there, guys?
I can speak to this, Nabil.
Go ahead, Erle.
This is really operator dependent. I spent the last 2.5 decades of my life working in order management. And I can tell you, when I look back on my journey, one of the things that happened on the way was we over-engineered. And so it became too big enterprise. I've often grappled with the whole concept of, is there something lighter, faster, easier? And I think we're seeing. So there are some instances where a big, heavy ERP solution is required. And there's so many of them. Spent the last few years studying the space and food manufacturing. Just think light food manufacturing, like sandwich factories, salad factories, that whole world has B2B solutions that could solve catering, very complex, sort of food manufacturing environments. And so they're heavy, big solutions. They don't have takeout, so again, you're into this world of a separate system, so the online ordering space, there's hundreds and hundreds, and there's people have light functionality, even POS, we won't name names, but okay, we're out and people are, talking about, everyone's kind of crossing over. So to me, keep your eyes on the ball. That's what I would say to our community, which is restaurants specifically. Okay. Scale, large and small, scales up and down, is really think about the off-premises strategy as a single strategy with true omni-channel channel management underneath it. And that's what you need to look for in your order management system and find it together, because, we've been patching these APIs and, this is what's been going on we're getting into the next generation. It's happening. There's consolidation taking place. So anyways, we can do a separate webinar on it. It's
anyone else we like out there? Any companies we like? Aaron, Karen, Josh, any other companies we want to give some love to?
Yeah, Flex Catering, Infor, they all do good jobs,
Amazing.
all of them.
Amazing. Okay, next question. I don't know who wants to take this, but any packaging companies, any recommendations for any great catering packaging companies? Karen, we're looking to you. Let us get your trade secret on those hot packaging stuff you guys have put together.
We actually, if someone is interested, we actually use a gentleman who's been doing packaging for a very long time and has access to a bunch of different vendors. So I would say we don't use just one solo vendor for all of our packaging. You really have to collaborate with all of them because there's so many different pieces that make sense that not everybody has. So if anyone specifically is looking for specific names, I'm happy to share those, but it's not really one vendor. It really is a collaboration of a bunch of different ones.
Awesome. Great response. And if you want to throw his name out there so people can reach out, or you want to do that later?
Yeah. If you want to even email me, I'm happy to write my email in the chat. I'd be happy to share any information.
Amazing. Okay, a question for you, Mr. Aaron. If restaurants are truly competing for driver's time, what is an appealing delivery to a driver? And what could make a delivery unappealing to a driver?
So number one is, having the opportunity to earn a gratuity. This is the gig economy. A lot of these almost all the companies that have that run delivery, these are all gig drivers, right? They're going to go where the money is. So if there's an opportunity for a lucrative tip, the restaurants that have food ready on time, great packaging, they're going to want to take those deliveries, over restaurants that don't do that. If there's clear drop-off instructions or pickup instructions, just put yourself in the driver's shoes for a minute. And what kind of deliveries would you take? Would you take a delivery that's going to the 30th floor that there's a $0 tip on? Would you take that delivery I probably wouldn't, so you're competing for these drivers' times. So lucrative tips or tip opportunities at least, and consistent volume. That's a good recipe for success.
Awesome. Can you guys still hear me? Okay, we almost made it through the whole thing without someone saying, "Can you still hear me?" I have lost that battle, and I think that's a good place to leave it. I think that's a good place to end, and that's a good way to end. The tech CEO dropped the tech ball. But team, Erle, Josh, Karen, Aaron, everyone, thank you so much. You guys are a wealth of knowledge, and you are so generous with your time. And just wanted to give, and I felt it. I hope everyone feels it as well. Very grateful for you guys and rooting for you guys. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Appreciate
Awesome.
Appreciate you guys.
Bye.
Thank you, everyone.
Great event.
Bye. Thank you.